a bit of a passion project for me, where we're going to review secrets from the Bible and how they can help us in our business. Now, this is not meant to be a spiritual program in that we're not going to talk about a relationship to God or any other higher being or the Son of God or anything else. Not there's anything wrong with it. I'm a religious Jew, so that's a important part of my life, a central part of my life. But really what I wanted to do is to people, whether you have a spiritual foundation or not, I wanted to do a book study on the book, the bestseller of all time, and in my experience, the source of more business success than any other book. Therefore, if somebody says, what's the best business book ever written? I've often been guilty of saying, Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man of Babylon, great books. But there is no question, in my lifetime at least, when I've polled top business leaders, the response is what's the best, the books that have the most impact on their business is the Bible. And so we want to take a non-spiritual view of it. How can this book that so many people have read positively affect us in our business? And so my goal is to approach it that way. Now, I happen to be a religious Jew. And I think I'm one of the few religious Jews that, not because I had a job in clergy or academically, but I've read not just the Old Testament, but the New Testament. I read it before I became religious. And so I'm very comfortable at looking for the gold, the nuggets, what I can use. What my rabbi teaches us in our religious faith is that the Bible is meant to be instructions for living, not a description of who died, but how we can better improve our lives. And so we want to look at the Bible and look for parts that will help us in our business life. That's the purpose of this call. We're going to do this every Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to record it as well. William Loudon, thanks for joining us today. You can join live on the Zoom call if you register on the Eventbrite, or you can watch it on YouTube or Facebook afterwards. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in the chat box and we'll try to answer any chats that are live. And then after the fact, I try to catch them up afterwards as well. So today we're going to take one, our goal is going to be, sometimes I'll have guests and sometimes we'll have just my favorite verse of the week. So this week we're going to have my favorite verse of the week. Let me pull it up here real fast. Share, oops, wrong book. Share page. Share screen. Here we go. And it's in the New Testament. Again, as a religious Jew, I'm comfortable reading it. In Galatians, chapter 6, line 9. I'd seen this on a internet posting, and I wrote this down. I'd like to write down motivational sayings, the things I learned about. Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. So let's break that down. Let's not become weary in doing good. Now, that's not to say we're not become weary, because, part of life is you get tired, right? You work hard, you get tired. You run, a mile hard, you're going to get tired. But don't get weary in doing good. Don't think, wow, I've wasted my time doing this good thing. I've done this work and not seen the result of this good thing. So don't get weary in doing good. So what's the lesson there for us? I think what it's telling us is find the pleasure in doing good without the results. What's that mean? There's a saying, I do my part and God does his part. So for example, as my wife and I invite people to our house who are Jewish, who are exploring their Jewish roots, to learn about the beauty of the Sabbath and Jewish family life. And we invite them over. And there's a saying in our community, which is, my job is not to change their heart. That's God's job. My job is to get them to my house and sit them down and feed them a meal and show them a nice home and show them what's possible. It's God's job to touch their heart. And so I'm not supposed to get worried on doing my part. I do my part. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get worried in life. It just means I don't give up on working God's program, or I don't get worried in doing the work. So if you take it out of spirituality, for example, there's a common saying in football, which is trust the process, or in business, right? What does that mean? So it means that there's a process that's been proven to work. Your job is to work the process and know you'll get the results at the end. For years, I worked in the Mike Ferry method of real estate, where we would prospect 3 hours a day. And if you ran your numbers and you role played, and you practiced scripts, and you learned them, and you put in 3 hours a day and you tracked your numbers, eventually, take about 90 days, you'd see the results. And so we'd say, don't give up before the miracle happens. Your job is to put the work in, then you see the result. As long as you're doing the good things, don't get worried doing the good things. You get worried at the end of the day. So then it goes on. For at the proper time, we'll reap a harvest if we don't give up. At the proper time. Now, does it say day one? I don't think so. Does it say day two? No. Does it say the first week? Does it say the first month? No. What does it say? What's the time of promise of this? We'll get the reward in the proper time.
Mm.
And so what we have to realize is that many times what we see as setbacks, what we see as falling down, is part of the process to make us strong enough to go forward. So if you think about the spiritual sense of God's trying to improve us, of course we're going to fall down. That makes us tougher and helps us appreciate other people who fall down so we can be strong enough to put a hand out to help them up. But we get the results in the proper time. It doesn't say the time that we want it. No. Does it say on my schedule? It doesn't say that because I run the world. It says what? In the proper time. And so that's true in the spiritual world, I believe, and it's also true in the business world.
Mm.
I can't tell you how many times I've had salespeople who I'll tell them, look, this is about a 90-day process, and they'll give up after 4 days. Of course, you didn't get results in 4 days. That would be like planting a wheat field and throwing out the seeds and getting mad because you didn't sprout a harvest. What's the proper time? I imagine in the fall. So we have to put the work in without being weary in the work. And then we'll reap in the proper time.
Mm.
Lastly, if we don't give up. So here's the other one. How many of us have worked on something that we really gave up on and we walked through the motions through the end of the process? If we're going to be honest. Right? How many people have been involved in a business project or a family relationship or anything? We say, well, at least I tried. No, it doesn't say try. It says if we didn't give up. See, can you mentally give up and still go through the motions? Who's done that in their life besides me? Right? So you can give up mentally and still go through the motions. And this is saying, no, that doesn't work. One of my favorite movies of all time is Gandhi. In the movie Mahatma Gandhi, he's leading this huge group of protesters, and they're living in a commune lifestyle. And everybody takes a turn doing certain jobs. So at some point, it's his wife's turn to do the job called rake and cover the latrine. Now, I've never done that personally, but I know what it means. The latrine is just a box. You go in to go to the bathroom, and there's a pot in the bottom. You do your business in the pot. Somebody takes that pot out and pours it in the dirt and then rakes it and covers up in dirt. Not a fun job.
Mm.
So Gandhi's wife comes to him and says, I don't want to do it. I'm your wife. He says, we all have to do our job. I did my turn. We all have to. She says, no, I'm your wife. I don't have to do it. And he said, no, the rules are, we all agreed. We all are the same. We all do the work. And she said, no. And he said, then you need to get out of the community. If you want to do the work, you don't belong here. And like a lot of us do, she said, fine, I'll do it. And Gandhi said, no. You'll rake and cover the latrine with love, or you won't do it at all. And so that's why when we endeavor in a new project, it's important that we do it all in. We can't go through the motions and have given up mentally and say, well, I promised to do it for 30 days. So I'm just going to do this cold calling for the next few weeks. I'm going to door knock the next few weeks. I'm going to call people and kind of walk through the motion. No. If we don't give up, we get the reward we're promised. If we don't give up. And give up doesn't say physically, just we can give up mentally as well. So it's important we keep a positive mindset through the job. So I want to share with you guys one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time, really from my first Christian teacher, Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar.
One of the greatest coaches. I had the honor of seeing him in person numerous times. And actually went to Dallas to take his train the trainer program, in 1988, I think. This is a story he calls the water pump story, the pump story. And I urge you to watch it on YouTube, but we're going to go ahead and watch a little bit real quick. I'm going to kind of walk you guys through it. Let me see here if I can get it. Okay, let's go see if we can listen a little bit.
Many years ago, were riding around in the South Alabama foothills. It was a hot August day.
Oh, you know what? I did
And,
this wrong. Hold on 1 second. Oh, hold on. I should. I'm sorry. My bad here. Let me go back to this. Stop the share. Stop the share. I'm sorry. I shared the wrong thing. Let me do it this way. I knew something was wrong when I was trying to do this. Here we go.
Was a passenger. They pulled behind this old abandoned farmhouse, and Bernard hopped out. He ran over, and there was an old pump on the well, and he grabbed the handle, and he started the pump. How many of you have ever used one of these old-fashioned water pumps? Can I see your hand, please? Okay.
Now, who besides me remembers a water pump like that? Okay, I'm older, right?
Mm.
I've seen those water pumps. I've used them. I remember when I was a kid, I had friends who had farms and went to Nutsbury Farm, and they had a farm working there.
Well, he had just a pumping away, you know it. After about 3 or 4 minutes, he said, Jimmy, better get that old bucket over there and dip some water out of the creek. We're going to have to prime the pump. How many of you know what I'm talking about when I say you got to prime the pump? Well, for you underprivileged non-pumpers, that just means you got to put something in here before you get something out there. Can't you just see an old farmer standing out in the fields in October and saying, Lord, I know I didn't plant a thing this year, but if you give me a big crop this year, I'll plant more than anybody next year. It ain't that way, folks. You got to put something in before you can expect to get anything out. Well,
as we talked about, you got to put something in. You got to work the process. You got to work the system. You got to do the work, whether it's spiritual for God's grace or for business. To get the results, you got to put the work in.
You're just a pumping away. You know, that's hot. It's August. I mean, the question is just how much pumping are you going to do for a drink of water? And finally, old Bernard said, you know, Jimmy, I don't believe it's any water down there. Jimmy said, yeah, it is, Bernard. You know, in South Alabama, the wells are deep. And, oh, we're glad they're deep because the deeper the well, the cooler, the cleaner, the sweeter, the purer, the better tasting the water. And isn't that true of life? Isn't it true that anything worth doing is worth doing poorly? Until you can learn to do it well. We'll never know how much more success.
And I think that's how business is, right? It's an exact analogy. In any business, I'm in real estate. If it was easy, there'd be no value to it. The reason why we get paid is to solve people's problems. If we learn how to overcome what to other people's overwhelming problems, we get paid. And that's what's worthwhile.
Success we would have had we just had a little more pumping in there, and pump and pump and pump and pump. Well, finally, old Bernard just got disgusted. He threw up his hand. He said, Jimmy, there's just no water down there. Jimmy said, don't stop, Bernard. Don't stop. If you stop, the water's going to go all the way back down, and then you're going to have to start all over. The reality is, folks, and I'm totally convinced of this, this is the story of America. This is your story. This is the story of success. This is the story of life. I believe with all of my heart that if you will pump long enough and hard enough and enthusiastically enough, that eventually the reward is going to follow the effort. And then once that water starts to flow, all you got to do is just keep a little easy, steady pressure on it. And you're going to get more water than you can possibly use.
Now, that's my experience of business. How many people do we know in life gave up before the miracle happened? Whatever it was, business, relationships, family, right? They gave up, and we're all guilty of this. We're all guilty of this at times in different areas of our life. And we have to find the areas that we're good at this and remember those successes and apply them to areas that we're not. How many of us give up and then we have to start all over again? And we all, or you know, people like this, so they start, stop, start, stop. And we say, well, I'll do it next time. I'll start again. I'll try again. And it gets harder every time we do it.
Mm.
It's easier just to keep going. And so what we want to do is find the way to find the system that we know is going to work, have the faith in it to keep putting the effort in. So we get to that point where we can just put some modest pressure on it, and then it just keeps giving us the rewards. That's the goal we want to get to. So again, just to review one more time our verse for the night. Galatians 6:9. Let's not become weary in doing good. Don't get weary in the pumping part. You can be tired, but don't give up on the pumping, because the proper time will reap a harvest if we don't give up. Okay, so I did a lot of talking on that tonight. William, you want to share anything on that?
Oh no, in fact, I have.
I will see you, and I do mean you.
Yeah, I love Zig Ziglar. I used to work for. I mean, I still do work at Keller Williams, but I remember at one of the conventions he came out to speak at the Las Vegas. I think it was in 2007. He came out and he spoke, and man, and probably he's a good Christian man as well.
Yes. I went to the trainer in Dallas with him and watched him and his family interact.
Mm,
And I think when you see something like that, you can see behind the scenes. He walks the walk. He treated his wife the way he talked about. He treated his
redhead,
wife.
right?
Really, just a great man. Just a great example of what can be a great. For me, I was Jewish then. I'm now a great Christian man. Great faith. I think faith was what led him, and he, I think, in a lot of ways, expounded that without being overwhelming in a way that was attractive, and helped me on my path back towards God. So I definitely owe him, and I want to make sure I praise him in his name for the works he's done. That he should, wherever he is, his soul should appreciate for all the good deeds that we do.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I have prepared today, William. Any
Okay.
questions, comments, anything else you want to add to it?
Well, I just wanted to know, have you seen the Jewish wisdom for business success before?
Yes. Rabbi
How
Lapin.
How do you like it?
Oh, no, that's right. It's a different book. No, that's not Rabbi Lachman. No, I'm not familiar with that one. Jewish Wisdom for Business Success.
Okay, the one you're talking about is the Business Secrets of the Bible. That's what you
There
want
you
to.
go. That's Rabbi Lapin. Yeah, I know Rabbi Lapin. I met him. I know his brother, and I kind of based this as a book study on his book initially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his
Okay.
book is fantastic. The other one I can't say, Jewish Wisdom of Business.
Huh.
Here it is. I'm going to look into that one too. Jewish Wisdom for Business Success. Business. Not familiar with it, but I will be soon. I'm going to get it on my Amazon right now. How is Jewish Wisdom for Business Success? How's that book?
Well, I just got it.
Oh,
I just got it. The books I really like it's a book I read. It's called God, Jews, and History. And the other, I didn't know that, for instance, Michael Dell, George Burns, I study Jewish businesses all the time. And I tell you, they don't have that many people in the world, but they have won more Nobel Peace Prizes far beyond their population percentage-wise. So I love Jewish history. I love, Menachem Begin is one of my favorite people.
wow.
And of course, I love Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi. I just got his book, My Story. Have you read that?
I've not. And I met him a long time ago.
You did?
Here in Los Angeles. I was involved with the Jewish Federation. At the time, he was Israel's ambassador to the U.S.
That's right. He was an ambassador.
I had a group lunch with him. I was about 10 people at the time. He didn't, you didn't necessarily know he was going to be the prime minister, but
right.
He was pretty well known then. If nothing else, to his brother.
Right. Yeah, the longest prime minister ever in history. And I love Golda Meir. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Now I'm sure you are. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I just, that's something I really love is Jewish history. It's very rich. Most hated people in the world, but yet they've added so much to society.
Well, I think we have our job to do is to inspire people to do good, and so I launched this class as a passion project, not to be spiritual, not to shy away from it, but to say, in addition to that, there's lessons to be learned, and so even the New Testament, to some degree, we as Jews would say we inspired or we were participants with at some level, and we can learn from it. So definitely want to continue.
Right. There are many portions of scripture that I love, like Joshua 1:8, where it says, "This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you should meditate on it day and night. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success." So the Jewish people back in the day, when Moses spoke to them, he was basically saying, keep the word of the law in your heart, in your mind, and meditate on it, and you will have success.
Right. I mean, look, the book was given to us for instructions for living. We say in Hebrew, Torat Chaim. It's meant instructions for life. This is not a book. It's meant, we're not to separate our spiritual life from our personal life. This is to teach us how to conduct ourselves every day in accordance with what the creator of the universe has designed it to work. It's like the owner's manual.
Yes.
So hopefully we all can benefit from that and grow and do better.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic. William, it's a pleasure. We do this again every Monday night, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
If you want to if you want to, I don't know if you have access, maybe next week we'll review your line and Joshua. We're a little over time here today, but we'll review your line and Joshua. That's my favorites also, but let's continue the discussion together, grow together, okay?
That'll be great.
Iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, Bill.